When I think about The Exorcist, I think about this movie that's the scariest film of all time that will shock you and terrify you and follow you right into your very own freaking nightmares. But here at Backtrack Cinema, let's see if it truly is the most terrifying movie ever. Let's discuss. When a young girl is possessed by a demon, her mother seeks the help of two Catholic priests to save her life. What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Jason. You're watching Backtrack Cinema, where we talk movies of the past that you know and love. Well, we are winding down to the end of spooky season, guys, and you knew I was saving the best for last, and we got The Exorcist review today. The original Exorcist from 1973, directed by William Friedkin and starring Jason Miller, Linda Blair, and Ellen Bernstein. Now, to really understand this movie, to understand The Exorcist, guys, we got to watch this movie with some context. We can't watch it with modern eyes. I have a pretty good ability of going back to 1973, putting myself in the audience seat and watching this for the most part. You know what I mean? Because I did not grow up with this movie, and this movie, people are told me, is the most terrifying thing they've ever seen when they watched it as a kid, or even when they watched it as a teenager. My own father tells me stories of this, where he took a girl on a date and, she wouldn't leave him for the whole night. She stayed the night because she was so terrified to go home and sleep alone. You guys know the stories, people fainting, people leaving and puking. This movie just unlocked childhood fears and just terrified them so much on a grand level, and it's a game changer. I will not take that away from it. But when I saw it, I saw clips of it when I was a teenager. I think someone in my house was watching it, and it was kind of like the masturbation scene with the crucifix and everything, and I kind of just chuckled at it because it was so dated and just didn't do much for me at the time. So years and years and years later, I only watched this all the way through a couple years ago, and I grew a much more appreciation for it. And I've watched it 3 or 4 times now, I guess. And I really do love it. Even though a lot of it's dated still, to me, character and story are never dated. And that's what this movie really has and really reels you in with. Just the way William Friedkin decided to shoot this like a documentary, where the camera doesn't move a whole lot, where it's very gritty and grainy. I love that kind of stuff. And there's a lot going for this movie, obviously. I mean, people rave about this movie. You know what I mean? The only thing is, I still when I watch it, it's not super scary to me, but not much is to me anymore. So what I will say is that it's a movie that gets unnerving. It gets unsettling. It kind of gets into your bones, like a lot of other films do. And it feels cold, especially when they're doing those exorcism scenes, because of they had the air condition the room and everything, and it was just freezing in there. And you feel all the elements in this movie. We open the movie up in northern Iraq, where we find Father Merritt finding the little trinket of the demon Pazuzu. And we see the big kind of architect statue of it, and at the end we see it in Reagan's room and everything, and the subliminal messages of everything of the demon face that pops up through this movie. That's where it really is getting into your subconscious. So the movie gets into that subconscious, right? Then we got this whole storyline with Father Karras, with his mother dying and the guilt he feels and all that. Then we got the mother, Chris, and her daughter Reagan, who Reagan gets possessed by a demon, and she slowly gets taken over by this demon, strapped to a bed at the end, and they try to exorcise the demon, as they say. Now, you will find every trope in the book in this movie on Exorcist movies, but it was the first one. Every Exorcist movie after that, man, is taking from what they used in this. It's kind of like watching how Halloween kind of set the slasher template, or you can even argue Black Christmas. We're not going to argue about that stuff, though. Halloween, setting this template for slashers. The Exorcist setting up this template for these kind of movies. Whenever you see an exorcism style movie, levitating beds, levitating in the air, the twisting of the heads, speaking in your dynamic voices, all that kind of stuff. But whenever you do it and it's original, it's just going to come off so pure. You know what I mean? And this movie really does that. And William Friedkin just directed Linda Blair so well in this movie. because she didn't know the context, and she was just a little girl at that point, didn't know what the context and everything that was going on, of things she had to say, things she had to do. I think she's fantastic because the makeup is done so well. You see that this is a dynamic entity in her, but you could see that it's still Reagan, and I like that. The scarring and all that, and that voice, the voice the demon talks in and everything. I think was just creepy as hell.
Do you know what she did? Your canting daughter.
There's so many moments that are iconic and it's beautiful to look at. Like if you took a snapshot or you took a photo, you know what I mean? There's that one shot at the end where Reagan, she got her hand up on the bed and just the lighting and everything's beautiful. But one of the scenes that just gets me the most is that twisting of the head, and he looks at her mother, you know what I mean? And where she slaps her mother, and the dresser's moving. You really feel the point of view of the character. What the movie really is about for me is this test of faith, innocence, I guess, being lost with this demon, the breakdown of this family, breakdown of a family. This family, this mother's divorced. She's raising Reagan on her own. She's a single mom. She's an actress, and they just go through hell through this movie. And I just love how so much of it is this slow burn. It's just ratcheting up little by little, little by little, little by little, little by little, till the end is such a great payoff and great character arcs. I mean, at first it's just very innocent. He says, Mom, my bed was shaking. And then, Chris keeps thinking she's hearing rats and she's hearing noises. And then it ramps up and up to where, Reagan starts shutting down. And then she, you see her pee herself. She gets taken to the hospital, tests over tests, doctors over doctors. And they spend a lot of time on this. And so, and queasy stuff, like when they're putting the needles in her neck, the blood's coming out. That's where I think people may be fainting from and stuff like that. But they take their time. You want to know why this movie has stood the test of time? This is how you do it. Great characters, great acting, and taking our time with everything. You have to build characters up. You have to build story up. Then let us have it. And that's something the 70s just understood. I don't know if it's just the time or just the talent or this stuff we haven't seen before, but they just understood that, this is over half the movie of building the characters up. And Ellen Bernstein's acting in this, I think she delivers the best performance. I really feel for this mother. This mother never gives up on her daughter. She goes through everything with her. She's being abused. She's being freaking verbally abused. She's being smacked around. She's scared to death what's going to happen to her daughter, that fear of her daughter dying from this thing. And she knows something's not right. My daughter's not schizo. That's not my daughter, until she evokes the help of these two priests. But she just goes for it emotionally in this movie. Great physical performance too. And Ellen Bernstein, I just like how she's talking to the doctors and they just want to keep doing more tests. And she goes and she's just like yelling and screaming at them and telling them, I know my daughter. 88 doctors, you can't find out what the hell's going on. That's where you still really start feeling frustrated, right? You get a great character arc with Jason Miller, with this priest who's lost his faith, or he's losing his faith. He's not near his mother. He wants to take care of his mother. His mother ends up dying, and he's got all this guilt. And this is something the demon, really uses against him at the end of this movie. But he wants to help Chris. He wants to help Reagan. And, he does something. This is a great character arc. He sacrifices himself for a girl he's never met. He's only met the demon. He's never really met Reagan. And that's where he throws himself through the window at the end. He gets control of the demon and then throws himself through the window. And I just think that was a great character arc, all tying into this real supernatural murder investigation with this cop coming around of what happened to this director who apparently committed suicide. But we know it's Reagan, right? That Reagan, the demon, killed this guy. But you're going to get fantastic performances like that. Even Jason Miller is great in this movie, man. And, I like the atmosphere of the 70s gritty atmosphere it creates, the coldness everywhere. And how this Jason Miller is this ex-boxer. And, I love how, the priests get together, they have a beer, they're all smoking. I just think, I don't know, it's just everything about the movie It's just fantastic that way. And there's so many things that are just so shocking in this movie, like the vulgarity of this, the way that this little girl, what's coming out of her mouth and everything. It would have been shocking. I know Black Christmas kind of did similar things with Billy's phone calls. You know what I mean? That would have been shocking for that time in the 70s. You know what I mean? And you guys know me, how I love consistent tone. William Friedkin knows what movie he's making, and he keeps the tone very consistent. I mean, this is a serious freaking movie. And it's really funny that they said, you know, they don't like that this is called a horror movie. The writer and William Friedkin, he said, I never set out to make a horror movie. It was like a serious drama, a thriller. I just think, though, it's become a horror movie because what it did and how it terrified people. But maybe back in its day, they didn't look at it as horror. But I don't care. You freak my shit out, you're gonna become a horror movie, no matter what you are. Music is amazing, and the lack of music when it knows not to use music. But, you know, Chris walking home with those tubular bells and everything, just fantastic shit there. Now, the only really negatives I got, and they're not really negatives, this little things, is I don't find the movie that scary. Like I said, I'll give it unsettling and stuff like that. It gives you these creepy vibes, but I wish this movie scared me as much as did other people. Like, people said this terrified the shit out of me. Like, I couldn't go to sleep. It just terrified. I'll never have it. I'll never watch it again. It terrified me. So I freaking wish there was a movie out there that does that to me on that level. But unfortunately, it's not as scary as it's hyped up to be. I wish they would have lingered on some shots a bit longer just to soak it all in. One was where Jason Miller says, I think I'm losing my faith to another priest. And they just really cut after that. That should have been a moment where you soaked it in. I think I'm losing my faith. And then got a shot of the other priest looking at him and kind of maybe doing a little sigh or like, and maybe just, you know, comforting him, patting him on the shoulder. I just felt like that was a good moment to really soak that what the character was feeling. That's nitpicking, guys. That's nothing. It's just, for me, I just felt like they were cutting the end of these scenes really quick, just on a few times. And I think I touched on effects work already, but, you know, just great effects work, man. Even with the cinematography, where there's a shot where they're all going up the stairs and it's turning up the staircase. You know, there was no Steadicam then. The Steadicam was invented when they were doing Rocky. So this 3 years before that, they had to, like, apparently put the cameraman, and they had to make it like a chair that was on wires so he could sit in it. And like, just how they got this movie made with some of these shots, just amazing, man. Everything was mechanical. Everything was practical effects. When they rose her up off the bed, the actors were really seeing that shit. You know what I mean? And just the old school filmmaking that I absolutely love. I've already touched on like the way Reagan looked and everything. I think it was great with the contacts, and Linda Blair. She really had to do some stuff here for, especially at such a young age. I will never take anything away from The Exorcist. It's not the most scariest movie ever, like it's hyped up to be, but this is a great movie if you really like slow burn building up of characters and story. And it's just so much iconic shots, beautiful cinematography. I mean, this is a classic movie, and I highly recommend it. I'm going to give The Exorcist from 1973 a B+. Well, what about you guys? Let me know what you think of The Exorcist. Let's have a great conversation about The Exorcist in the comments below. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe. It really helps the channel and builds the channel. If you haven't watched my other reviews, head down the rabbit hole, watch those horror reviews. I've been doing 70s horror all month, so check it out. I would really appreciate it. My name is Jason. You're watching Backtrack Cinema. I will see you next time, and I will see you in the movies. Cheers.